In this video, we're looking at the key concept of identity politics, and understanding this concept is very important today because in politics, you have identity politics and you have other types of politics, but identity politics is one of the many types of politics we have there. Now, it's important to understand this concept because it defines the political landscape, especially in Western countries, but also in developing countries. You have identity politics. So let's take a look at what this is about and have a better sense of how it plays out in the political landscape. Now, identity politics is a political approach, right? So by definition, again, let's take a look at this closely. So by definition, identity politics, right? So here, identity is identity, right? So identity is how you define yourself and who you think you are, right? So in society, we have different types of identity based on different factors. So for example, we have identity based on race, right? So let's put that here. So race is an identity. Sex is an identity as well. We have religion, it's an identity, right? Religion is an identity. We have culture as well as an identity. So we have many, and the list is long, obviously. We have national origin as identity, we have ethnicity and so forth. The list is long, right? So these are all identities that we have in society. And so when we say identity, we are talking about these factors here, plus more. Ethnicity, so we can add that here as well. National origin, NO for national origin. You can have that there as well. Right, so all of these are identities, different identities in society. So when we say identity politics, we are talking about these factors, and then we are talking about politics. Right, so combining these factors with politics becomes identity politics. All right, so let's take a closer look at this. So identity politics, by definition, is a political approach where people that have certain identities, right? So now we've identified some identities, again, race, sex, what people would call gender, but actually sex, religion, culture, ethnicity, national origin. It would be by social, economic class, etc. Right? So certain identities in common, right, such as race, religion, culture, national origin, social, economic status, gender or sex, social background, social class, and other forms of identity, develop a political agenda. Now, this is the important point here. And this is the main point of identity politics, right? So these people coming together and developing a political agenda, essentially developing a political agenda, right? And philosophy, right? So political agenda, philosophy, ideologies that are based on this identity. So they develop agendas based on their identity. So for example, let's take race. People of certain race coming together, they have one thing in common in this case, which is race, coming together and saying that we have to put together an agenda to further our race, in the interest of our race, to protect our race, to advocate for our race, and so forth. And so they have, maybe several demands on the agenda. I'll say, well, we need, better policies protecting us, for example. We need educational policies, for example, health policies, for example. We need positions at the seat, for example, a political seat, for example. So they have an agenda to further their interest in society, right? And again, that's what this is addressing here. Let's take a look at this once again, because this is a very important point here. So we say these people, based on identity, develop political agendas and philosophy or ideologies that are based upon these identities, right? And these are the key things here. So identity, in this context, identity, right? Identity equals to political, this is political agenda, right? Or you can say philosophy, ideology, that's fine as well. So your identity then, right, leads to a political agenda. Again, people coming together based on these identities, right, and forming a political agenda. That is identity politics. And so they impact the political landscape because they become a powerful bloc and to be reckoned with. And people in the landscape have to reckon with them if they want to win elections, or sometimes they themselves, depending on the strength, can ride to power based on identity politics, or they can support a candidate or a political party based on identity politics, right? And identity politics sometimes could be divisive because they just focus on themselves, and they just advocate for their interest. They just move the agenda forward in society without regards to the needs of other people. Sometimes it could be detrimental in the political landscape. But identity politics is politics based on identity, and people of the same identity coming together and advocating for themselves, putting together an agenda, a political agenda to further their interest, to protect their interests, and to be sure that their voices are heard. This is identity politics.